Can we have a round of applause for Hayley? Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh gosh, I got so tearful at the beginning just seeing everyone there and here are 10 million, and my daughter is one of those million, like those 10 million, and it's almost like you're marching for her. Thank you. I'm Hayley, and I'm here with you today because I was coerced into ending my daughter's life by abortion when I was 16 years old. So this year she would actually have been 22. There's not a day that goes by I don't think of her. I wonder what she would have looked like. You know, what would her passions have been? What would have been her likes and dislikes? What would her first day at school have been like? You know, she might even have had children of her own by now. She could be like having my grandchildren. And it's so impactful. It's not just cells, this is a life and generations that you snuff out in that moment. But for 21 years, I completely hated myself. I condemned myself for not being stronger, for not being braver, for not being smarter, for not protecting her. So when I found out I was pregnant, to be honest, I was completely shell-shocked. It's not something anyone plans for, is it, a teen pregnancy? But I knew I wanted her. I knew that I wanted my baby. Then when I told my family, they weren't best pleased, as you can imagine. A 16-year-old saying I'm pregnant. But I don't know, spoke to the guy that I had been seeing. I didn't really know what to expect, but being older than I was, and he already had 2 amazing children, I did expect something a little more supportive than a demand that I have an abortion. The pressure is immense. So I was lied to, I was bullied, I was manipulated into agreements. I had made and cancelled the appointment twice before I spoke to the doctor a 3rd time, and she made it very clear that I had wasted their time. I'd wasted their time before, and the time was starting to run out. If I left it any longer, it would have been a late-term abortion. So it just applied more pressure to get it over with quickly. So I begged and I pleaded with this man to let me keep my baby. Even if it meant looking at adoption, anything to stop me going through that. He said he didn't trust me to give the baby up, and it had to end with abortion. I hate so much that he had that much control over me. So the day came, and he and his friend drove me to the clinic where I was left alone, defeated and broken to face the abortion. So he had convinced me that I would be alone and I'd have no support if I kept my baby. But if I had the abortion, this small procedure for a bit of a course correction, everything would be just fine. It's just cells anyway, not a big deal at all. He said he would support me if I had the abortion. Yet there I was on my own, knowing if I changed my plans, I had no way of getting home. And believing I would be alone with no support. Let me just be clear, I wasn't alone, not at all. But he had convinced me that I was. As I lay there on the operating table a few hours, or so it felt, later, the realisation of just how much I so wanted my baby just overwhelmed me. The nurse was stroking my head and she hushed my crying. She said that I shouldn't worry because everything was going to be okay. And I told her through my sobs that it really wasn't. Nothing would ever be okay again. Can I just stop there and just kind of highlight this for a minute? At that moment, my abuser had legally attacked me and took the life of my unborn baby. and his weapon was the legal right for a woman to choose abortion. And even more convenient for him, it was completely free on the NHS, and someone else was doing his dirty work. Afterwards, I waited for hours for him to come and collect me and drive me home. When he did finally turn up, I was told that he was going to leave me there with no way home, but his friend convinced him that it would be cruel. The days and weeks after the abortion were horrifically painful. I can't even begin to fully describe the darkness that overwhelms you in those moments. The nightmares that I would face after eventually crying myself to sleep. The staring aimlessly out of a window. I was completely lost and broken, and suicide felt like a really, really good choice for me in those moments. I don't know how I'm still here. I genuinely don't. Eventually, I came to the conclusion the only way I was going to get through this was I had to toughen up. I needed to convince myself that the lies were true. I had done the right thing. What life could I have given her anyway? And just keeping on telling myself these lies helped me to get through another day. But it didn't fix it. I turned to drink, I turned to drugs, I started to sleep around, I had eating disorders. All the things I now know are typical of post-abortion trauma. When I seen the BBC poll that said that 15% of women had experienced abortion coercion, I had to ask myself how many of the women asked were doing what I had just to get through another day, to try and take back some form of control. How many are still in survival mode and lying to themselves and others? And even with that 15%, that's still thousands. Why are the people in charge not outraged and making changes to help protect women and their babies? Instead, they've made it easier for women to be abused with abortion with their pills by post amendment. There are already stories of women not even knowing that they've been given the pills. How many will it take before our government starts to take notice? Even one mother and child should be too many. Where is the safeguarding? Why are they allowing our healthcare system to be used to abuse women in the worst way possible, ending their babies' lives and leaving them feeling powerless and unheard? Surely all can agree that money would be better spent on pregnancy counselling and support and tackling domestic abuse. No mother should feel that she has to end her child's life to be free of her abuser, or be left like I was, deluded and believing that this man's behaviour was normal. You may have noticed that I said that Chelsea would have been 22 this year, but I only hated myself for 21 years. So I just want to give a message of hope to anyone who's post-abortive out there. And the reason for that is that I gave my life to Jesus Christ. The weight on that day that lifted off of me, that burden that I've been told for years by pro-abortion people, to just be quiet about, learn to carry it, be quiet. It went, and Jesus gave me my voice back. I just want to give a shout out because the tools that he used to do that, one of them was Rachel's Vineyards. In May of 2021, I finally learned to accept God's forgiveness and to forgive myself. I told my story from start to finish for the first time ever, and I was heard. I was listened to. Another tool that God used was her voice, a platform to share your stories. And there's a psalm which has lines in it that say something along the lines of, "When I was silent, I ached to my bones.
Day and night my sin was heavy upon me, but once I confessed it and gave it to the Lord, I was forgiven. You see, I think that forgiveness and speaking out the truth are like two sides of the same penny. Don't be silenced. You're already forgiven. Speak out your truth and share your story. The more voices shouting, the louder they become and the harder to ignore. The government have ears to hear. Make them hear!